The thoughts and opinions of Schyler Sylvie expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the Grimm Times podcast or Jeff Jarman. Thank you and enjoy the show. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Grimm Times podcast, episode number 21. Today I am joined by, you know him, you love him, Schyler Sylvie. He's back on the podcast. Hello and welcome back.
Hi.
Man, a few words in the beginning. Once we get going, though, nobody can stop him. So, this is going to be a two-part podcast. We're going to start out talking about the American diet versus, drugs and the effect that both of these things have on the human body, both negative and positive. Probably less positive on the drug side. Well, actually, probably less positive on the diet side as well. But there are so many things we can go into with this. Schyler's been doing a lot of research on the issue recently, so we're going to hear from him first, I think, and just kind of get his general overview, and we'll take it from there. So where do you want to start with this exactly?
Well, I just started with specifying exactly what drugs we're talking about here, and I was going to cancel out like a few of them. I think everybody in the entire populace could totally agree, except for its users anyway, that methamphetamines, cocaine, whatever, like the heroin, the really hardcore stuff would have to be removed from this argument in the sense of those are probably way worse in many different ways than the American diet. Also considering they have a lot of serious short-term issues that could like insta-kill you, especially if you mix all three together.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is like whenever it comes down to food and grease and deep fried foods and stuff like that, and what everybody eats, like, and then you got McDonald's and other fast food restaurants. I mean, realistically, I hear people sit there and rant about such drugs as, pot and like these really morbidly obese people. And, and they rant about pot while they're fat, and it is kind of interesting in my mind. So, like, granted, you got the potheads that are fat too because they get the munchies and eat too much, which actually further contributes to my point. You could argue also that pot contributes to a poor American diet, but then I can also turn that back and say, well, that also contributes to bettering the economy and making our United States a lot stronger than it already is, economically speaking. But then again, I don't care because I'm not that patriotic. But the thing is that what I was reading was diabetes is one of the it's like type 2. Type 1 is unpreventable if you're born with it. You can't really just eat a whole bunch of food and get type 1 diabetes. But whenever you get diabetes and eat too much poor foods after getting it, the consequences of it afterwards, assuming if you're not diagnosed with it anyway, are horrible. Okay, people rant on about cancer and they have cancer funds and all this stuff, but the one thing you never really hear about is diabetes, which can actually cause amputations. Like you can have your leg removed because you're diabetic. You can go blind. You can actually get a stroke, and you can actually get a heart disease, which is actually one of the leading causes of death. And a lot of these drugs that people rant on, you're not really going to have most of those issues with just by using those. But the American diet by itself, it's almost guaranteed. Like, here's a drug that most people don't realize. And by the way, when I say drugs, I'm talking about illegal drugs, not street drugs. Because legal drugs are actually worse than most illegal drugs, such as sugar. In my opinion, it's probably one of the worst drugs anybody could ever consume, and we consume it continuously.
Now, I want to ask you really quick there on the sugar thing. There are a few different kinds of sugar. I mean, you have the pure sugar, which, it grows naturally, right, or something like that. And then you also have the processed sugar that they give us after, it's GMO and all that kind of stuff where they just add so many things to it, so many chemicals, preservatives, whatever it may be. So pure sugar, like in its original form, do you believe that that's as unhealthy for us as what we are given now?
No, but it's not any better. See, the reason why, or it's not any worse, I should say.
It's like natural
You know,
chocolate. I've heard natural chocolate is almost healthy for you.
well, there's a lot of things that are healthy for you. It isn't the problem. It's in what amount. Like I can sit here and I could say oranges are healthy for me, but if I eat too many oranges, then actually, ironically, that can also cause diabetes because of the sugar that's in it.
Right.
It isn't really necessarily about the sugar itself or what type it is, though processed sugar is really worse than all the rest of them.
Yeah.
Processed anything,
Yeah.
whether it's sugar, meat, or vegetables. But the fact of the matter is that whenever your body, it's not that sugar's like in itself bad for you. It's just to what extent it's put in foods and how much it's used. Like if you imagine eating an entire wedding cake to yourself, like a fucking 5-layered cake. Okay, now imagine for a second what spikes that's gonna cause on your freaking system. So your pancreas actually is supposed to break down the sugar into insulin. Okay, the act of diabetes is whenever it can't do that and your body's overloaded with more sugar than it can break down. So your pancreas kind of causes that, is kind of like, oh, I give up. So
Oh, okay.
the yeah, it becomes unfunctional. It doesn't work as properly
Yeah.
or at all in some cases. So the fact is that whenever that's why people when they're diabetics they can't consume really any sugar. Well, they can just in very minute amounts, because it doesn't take as much sugar anymore not as much as required
Yeah.
because their tolerance has been fucked with.
So you
So the
can
fact is, what?
so you can eat like a little piece of candy and get your blood sugar back to where it should be. It
Well,
takes that small of an
uh,
amount.
if this is assuming I'm remembering correctly, and I know with hypoglycemia, it is actually the lack of sugar. So you're going to have to, you actually, hypoglycemia, it's better to actually eat sugar so that you can process it because without sugar, it causes a lot of issues as well.
Oh, okay.
So So the thing is like literally hypoglycemia and diabetes are like the exact opposites in terms. From what I recall correctly, now I'm going to put this out here and tell everybody that I'm not a doctor. Just throw that out there. But I'm just talking about basically from the brief overviews of what I've researched. Now, what I have also found in my researching is that over 600,000 Americans as far as 2011 were diagnosed with diabetes type 2,
Wow.
and they approximated about 1.5 million people were not diagnosed outside of that 600,000. Now, there's only one way that they would know if you were diabetic and not diagnosed, and that's if you had died from it, or you had gotten like a stroke or heart attack or whatever from being diabetic and not knowing about it.
Oh, okay.
So that this means, simply put, that there is actually it's an epidemic. Okay, I don't give a shit about freaking cancer. Okay, now heart disease is a big deal, but compared to but compared to diabetes, these two aren't really that big of a deal. Diabetes affects your entire body, where heart disease and cancer only affect central points, with the exception of blood cancer, which obviously in a sense affects your whole body, but even then it targets almost completely your blood anyway.
But do you think that
So
someone could argue that diabetes is actually more treatable than heart disease
yeah, I would say it is. It could be more treatable if it was
if
found
it was
out.
detected? Yeah.
But also considering the fact that heart disease is mostly abrupt. So
Yeah.
whenever you get a heart attack, it's just boom. You're not going to be like, man, I can feel this coming 2 weeks later. I can feel this coming, man. I'm going to have a heart attack. I mean, that's how you put yourself into a heart attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But with diabetes, I think that once it's actually diagnosed, you pretty much have to maintain yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you die. I'd
Yeah.
rather have a heart attack just abruptly in my sleep than have to live the rest of my life having to deal with the fact that I had type 2 diabetes
Yeah. Do you
and
know if
had
they're
to.
really do you know if they're really looking very hard for a cure for diabetes?
It doesn't seem that way, but I have a great cure for it, and that is don't be stupid and prevent it from happening by eating more properly. Whatever. Now, granted, I'm not the master at that, and I, like everybody else, loves the American diet, I guess, to a point. But the fact of the matter is that if you're really worried about it, there's ways to prevent it. So, and
Can
the
you?
fact is, what
Sorry to cut you off there. Can you give us some of those ways that you prevent it?
don't eat high amounts of sugar, don't drink any soda whatsoever, ever, or if you do in very minute amounts. Whenever you drink, don't drink your stupid morning coffee times five when you wake up.
Yeah.
So, like my grandmother wakes up and drinks like 5 damn cups of coffee, So I know people who drink a whole goddamn pitcher after they wake up, but granted, not at once. But whatever. And then there's also eat less fattening foods. Obesity is actually a major cause in diabetes, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
when I think of diabetes, I always think of overweight people being at the highest risk, but maybe that's not true in every case.
well, no, actually, it is actually, from what I read, is true. Just being slightly overweight puts you at a higher uh, risk of getting diabetes than your person who has a normal body weight.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it is actually true, and actually, it's one of these deals to where like it's now it's a stereotype that oh my God, this guy is obese, so he's either going to or has diabetes. That is a stereotype because it doesn't. You're not guaranteed to get it. There's no guarantee here. So it's like oh my God, I'm 5.5 ounces overweight. I'm going to become diabetic and die from a stroke and or cardiac arrest in my sleep. No, it's not a guarantee. It's not like if you go to some random crackhead and say like, the N word that you're going to get shot. That's more of a guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say.
I mean, but the fact is that no, I mean, and this goes into a whole totally different topic on my beliefs of being germaphobes and stuff like that, and being too extreme and stuff like that. But I'm going to cut that down basically to bare bones level, and that is, if you want to be an extremist and go through the trouble of trying to prevent getting diabetes or whatever, and go to like outrageous extremes, like let's say to being a vegan. What's interesting about vegetarians is they don't consume any calories because vegetables don't really contain it. And calories are the very thing you need to burn. You have to burn calories to whenever you use activity.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any calories to burn and you're having a 0 calorie diet and you're working out, you're going to fucking kill yourself. You will die.
Yeah.
So what's your body gonna burn when there's no calories? What's gonna burn your body fat? What if you're out of body fat?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's one of these things where I don't believe in going too extreme with it because you could ultimately kill yourself. Plus, meat and stuff like that has certain proteins in it that vegans aren't getting and have to take vitamin supplements for. And vegetarians, you get vitamin supplements for just to maintain their own lifestyle. Which, if you have to take a vitamin supplement for something that because you're choosing not to consume it, then that's kind of a moot point in my eyes. So it renders your entire philosophy to pointlessness,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
my opinion.
That could even lead into a whole other discussion about the human body being designed to eat meat in the first place. Because I mean, a lot of people they'll tell you that the human body wasn't originally intended for well, carnivorous activities, I guess. So let's just move on into the next topic here. You had something about Disney that you wanted to discuss.
Yes, my disdain of Disney. And but to elaborate here, it isn't really Disney itself; it's the mentality that it created. So, in other words, what I find interesting is our society finds it necessary to eliminate, like, okay, actually, before I go into all this, I'm gonna like quote something that I got on my Facebook today. I don't think it was sent to me specifically; it was a share in a wall, blah blah blah. Person on my friends list, though I'm not going to name him, specifically stated, posted a picture of a Disney character and posted this. The intention is about the picture anyway. The intention is to fill up Facebook with Disney characters to break the invasion negative pictures and videos on timelines. If you like this post, a Disney character, or if you like this post, there's a typo there. But if you like this post, post a Disney character. Or no, it just says a Disney hero will be assigned to you. I don't know. I don't even care. The point is you get the basic point of it. All
Yeah.
right. Now, in my eyes, that actually is my point. Using Disney, using Disney or its mentality to escape reality. So, oh my God, the world is a happy place. It's full of fairies, rainbows, and in the end, all monsters die and evil is destroyed, and leprechauns have gold at the end of the rainbow. We all know that. So, and then what I don't like about this is it really takes away from an analytical outlook of the world. Instead, what you're doing is you're burrowing yourself into the depths of childhood and not accepting what is reality. And what reality is, the bad guys don't always lose, and good doesn't always win, and freaking there's not going to always be some fairy hiding around the corner to save you at a prom.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if it necessarily is a bad thing or it affects people growing up to where they can't handle the stresses of life, but maybe it does. Maybe they're not prepared for that because they think that they are going to be a Disney princess, And
Well, it isn't necessarily Disney. I mean, it's far beyond the realm of just blaming Disney now. It's the mentality really they created from the beginning. At the time, it was probably great and all that. I mean, I wasn't there when they first came out, nor would I have liked to be. It would have probably sucked in my eyes, at least from the viewpoint of now.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the mentality that created the fantasyland nonsense that people look forward to in life, in everyday life, I think on a subconscious level it manipulates, not necessarily consciously. So, in other words, like look at movies now. How many movies have these happy, stupid endings at the end?
I would say
Our society expects this.
yeah, I would say 75% of movies have a happy ending.
It's just that there's not always a happy ending. I want it 50-50, and that's how I look at it. It's
Well,
like I can under.
I think reality has so many bad guys winning that the film they try and give somebody that sense of hope. But then again, usually the bad guys are the ones who control the film industry anymore. So I don't even know what's going on.
Well, I know, and I understand that point, but it's just whenever it transcends out of movies. Like whenever people in their daily lives they go to a job interview and the optimistic. I don't believe that like the optimistic viewpoint that they're going to get it. I mean, it's just not going to happen all the time. So you might as well accept the fact that you either will get it or you won't. Look through the looking glass from a neutral perspective, as opposed to, oh my God, it's so fantastic, we're going to get a job because the fairy godmother gave me a dress.
Yeah,
I mean
I was gonna look at it
it
like you sounded like you wanted more of a pessimistic outlook, and I was thinking maybe if kids grew up with that though, if they grew up with a pessimist kind of ideology, then maybe they won't try as hard in life and they might not succeed as
well
well. But then again, you
I'm
said that you wanted it to be 50-50, so that does really give both sides a fair shot.
I'm talking about neutral, not pessimistic. I'm talking about no optimism and no pessimism, just straight up robotic neutral.
You want
Like
people
it'll
to be
either.
robots.
I want
How
people to
dare
be able
you?
to look at logical. Yeah, I want people to look at logical situations logically, as opposed to looking at them with emotion.
Yeah, I could go along with that.
So it's like if you look at every situation emotionally, look how many different situations are going to butt fuck you.
You must have loved Mr. Spock.
Yes, I did actually.
Yeah, that would be the best way to look at it. I think that would be the most rational. You'd probably have many less wars that way. But that's even on a grander scale. But I mean, you know where I'm going with that. So
Right, and if you look at war as a vague generalized idea and just look at a war as simply just an argument between two people. You know, I mean, it's just like I've seen my sister like. Okay, here's a good one. This is my personal favorite. This is what I call the true essence of a Disney mentality, and this is mostly a woman thing. And I can be called a freaking misogynist or this can be called a stereotype. I don't really give a shit because there are men like this too, but it's mostly women. Okay, and that is a simple fact that when women get in a relationship, most the ones that aren't being total sluts, when they're actually trying to maintain a successful relationship or try and get into one, they go into it with the expectation that the guy is going to be Prince Charming and everything's going to be perfect. He's going to be knight in shining armor and have all this enormous high amounts of optimism and expectations and all this stuff, and they never really, and then when they do that, they don't see that the guy that they are with may be this freaking jock character asshole who is no different from, I guess you could say, the what you could call the bad guy off of freaking Beauty and the Beast. You know, I mean, basically it's one of these deals to where like you should look at it logically, you know, and what happens is women you know, don't really sit there and try to analyze the guy. They should analyze him, like, and I'm meaning extensively, and take yourself out of the situation entirely and look from the outside in and
Yeah.
analyze that person's character
And
in every
instead,
aspect of it.
yeah, and instead they fall for this idea of the guy. They see the outer persona and they don't take a moment to really look at what he is for who he is, and they just fall in love with this idea. And then, 5 months later, when they're really surprised and he turns out to be a douchebag, it's like, maybe you should have seen that to begin with. And have you seen that new movie, Frozen, from Disney?
Oh my God! Silence! I don't even want to talk about that movie.
Well, the one point I was going to bring up is that the Anna character at the beginning, she falls for that prince guy, remember? And he turns out to be a dirtbag, and he's like the villain of the movie. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it does open up that idea, that maybe the first Prince Charming is not quite the one that you are supposed to be with.
You know, I'm getting tired of hearing about that movie, and I haven't even seen it. You know, Frozen, Frozen, Frozen. I don't call it Thawed.
Yeah, well, maybe that'll
Um,
be the
uh,
sequel.
yeah, they'd be frozen again. But the thing is that no, it just boggles me. Like, here's what I always thought of when I was a teenager. This is like how I looked at it, and that was simply this: if the guy drinks underage, has a whole bunch of friends, and has some aspect of popularity, and then odds are he's not the Prince Charming.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean, cut and dry, and especially, I mean, it should be obvious. I mean, there's enough freaking 1980s movies that sit there and preach basically the same thing. I mean, how many 80s films are there that say the exact same shit? Like, here's the jock, here's the geek, who's better?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, it's interesting to me. And so it's like it almost screams like insanity. Now, granted, there are men that do this too, so it's not just women. So I have known a few guys who've fallen for the bad girl type. I mean, it isn't one of these deals to where it's a whole lot different.
yeah,
It's more common for women than it is for men because men predominantly are man whores. And
yeah,
so, it's true. Whenever they're teenagers, they're at their height of freaking, testosterone. So
yeah.
when you're at your peak, you're gonna basically just be like, I'm gonna fuck everything that moves. Come here, donkey. You know, it's just, it's an expectation,
Yeah,
and it's kind of obvious
yeah,
to me. And for anybody, like, I couldn't understand it from when I was in school. It's like, if you can't see it and I can, then what the hell's the problem?
yeah.
You know, it,
Speaking of testosterone, we're both 24, about to be 25 here in a couple months. Um, do you
I'll
buy
be
in?
25 first.
Yeah, by a little less than a month, I think. But or wait, maybe it's a month and a day. You're June 16th, right?
No, June 8th.
June 8th. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe a little bit over a month then, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they say once you turn 25, you need to start boosting your testosterone. Do you buy into that?
No, but then because the reason I'm saying that is because I believe that it depends entirely upon the person and genetics and shit. And that's another thing. It's like, see, and this is like my annoyance with society is they like to generalize everybody into a nice little folder.
Yeah,
And it's like, it doesn't work that way.
yeah,
Okay? It's
exactly.
like, look, me personally, my girlfriend on many occasions has called me, like, I think actually only once or twice, but called me Chewbacca because I have, like, a little too much hair. I mean, besides that point, look at Robin Williams.
Yeah, yeah,
You
definitely.
know, how old is he?
He's,
I don't think.
I think he's in his late 50s.
Yeah, I don't think he has any testosterone problems. I mean,
No.
'cause how you can tell is the amount of hair. The more the hair, the higher the testosterone. I mean, that's part of how the
How
more
you can gauge that? Yeah.
huh?
How you can kind of gauge that?
Yeah, I mean, the more hair, the more testosterone you have, the more hair you grow.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
same thing with women and estrogen. So,
Hmm.
so basically, the fact is simply that you know, I kind of find it annoying. Yeah, some men maybe I could see it, but I doubt it entirely. In terms of it being like it's like back to public schools. Every single kid on the universe learns in the exact same way. Isn't
Yeah.
that awesome?
Yeah, that's exactly how they put it together. But all right, well, everyone, we're here at the end of the podcast. I want to thank Skylar for being on the show. I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, HostGator. If you are looking to start your own website, you want a fast, easy way to do it, join up with HostGator. Enter the code The Jeff Jarman Show at checkout to get a nice discount. I think it's 25% off. So check that out. Show us some love. Click on the banners on the website. Go to thejeffjarmanshow.com. You can find Skylar Sylvie on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm at JeffJarman55 on Twitter. Skylar is at Skylar Sylvie on Twitter. You can follow the Grimm Times podcast on Twitter. We're pretty much everywhere. So yeah, just the main hub is the JeffJarmanShow.com. Check that out. Thanks again to Skylar for being on the show, and we will catch you next time on the Grimm Times podcast.
Yeah, make